Alright, so we're back for yet another unscheduled, this time, fermentation update. I did not expect this one to barf out like this, but I guess this is what happens when you have a vigorous fermentation and combined with a really full overfilled fermenter. So you have a nice hoppy smelling white foam pouring out. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. So we're starting off this Homebrew Wednesday with Dan Edelman or Funky Farm Brewery's Cano Corn Cream Ale. I poured it out about a minute or so, a few minutes ago, just to, just wet my palate before I filmed this video. And he filled it almost all the way to the top, but luckily it still poured a little bit of head, but for a cream ale, I wasn't expecting to have much retention. So just to give a quick review, I don't know what cream ale, like a traditional cream ale, is supposed to taste like. I'll admit that. I haven't brewed one. Haven't tried that many homebrewed versions. To me, like the corn that's in it, like reminds me of a little bit of diacetyl. So like to me, when I first poured it, I was getting some really nice Saaz or traditional, traditional noble hop aroma. But now, as it warmed up, I just get like a lot of DMS. I don't know if it's DMS, but it reminds me of definitely more of diacetyl than anything else. I mean, the taste, it's not really an offensive diacetyl. It has like a little bit of corn, sweet corn flavor, and a little bit of bready sweet malt. But overall, to me, it's a nice drinking beer, but with it reminding me so much of diacetyl, I don't know if he intended that, but that's just my bit on it. If you guys have brewed a cream ale, tell me if you got hints of diacetyl, but realize that it was really meant for the style. So a couple of tips that I wanted to relay this week. One of the big things that I want to do for my Homebrew Wednesdays is really teach you guys something, and that's why when I reviewed my barley wine last week's Homebrew Wednesday, I added some quick tips in text form throughout the review of my barley wine, just to show you guys that I wasn't just hemming and hawing about my barley wine and how good it turned out. So a few things. I did brew my double IPA on Sunday, and I will be posting a separate brew day video for that. But a few things just that I want to talk about is, first of all, I added gypsum and calcium chloride to the mash to not only to adjust pH, but because gypsum is known for helping accentuate the hop character, and I wanted to make sure that happened, of course, with a double IPA. So I added a good amount of that and some calcium chloride just to balance the beer out, where there will still be some malt, the character of a malt backbone, but there will be a very juicy hop character. So I added in total, I think, about 8 or 9 grams of gypsum and about 4.5 to 5 of calcium chloride. My scale was a little bit wonky. I might have to get a more sensitive scale, a more well-balanced scale, just to get those small amounts of grams measured out correctly. But overall, my pH didn't get too low, so I'm not too worried. But in general, in order to brew better beer, I feel that tweaking the mash profile with minerals like gypsum, calcium chloride, salts, minerals, whatever you want to call it, is a very good way to go. Of course, it helps that New York City has very soft water, so you don't really have to worry that you're adding too much of one thing or another. But I'd advise, get your local water, water report, and talk to guys in your homebrew clubs, at your homebrew shop, and see how you can use, the minerals like this to accentuate all those hoppy beers that I know you guys like to brew. crazy for this double IPA. I posted some pictures on Facebook. I posted an initial video on YouTube of like quick 35 seconds of when the fermentation starts to really kick off. And I had to clean up a few messes, and what saved me was Firm Cap or Firm Cap S, which you can buy pretty much anywhere online and at your local homebrew shop, which controls the foam. And I ended up having to go, it recommends 2 drops per gallon, but in the end I had to double that and make it 4 to 5 drops per gallon before it actually got under control and stopped blowing off beer. And I even read on the Mad Fermentationist website that he brewed a Kate the Great clone and used this American Ale 2 yeast, and he lost over a gallon to blow off because the yeast was just so active in the first few days or week of fermentation. So in order to save my beer, I did whatever I could, and I didn't want to add more firm cap, but in the end I needed to, and it did the job. And lastly, as another last tip, before I get into some footage that I want to share with you, is that last night I was looking over my recipe of my double IPA, and I accidentally pressed the delete button when I was trying to close the program on Beersmith. So I thought I lost it, and I had to go back to my cloud folder where I always share my recipes before I go to the homebrew shop to get, pick up my ingredients for my beers. And I put it back into my recipes folder. But then I was like, maybe I should look around Beersmith and see if there is a way where I can find the original. So I went to the view folder, the view drop down option, and I found the recipe archive, and in there it was the recipe that I accidentally deleted. So if you ever accidentally delete something, that's where you should go. It's the recipe archive, because it'll have your most recently saved version of the recipe. And last but not least, actually, I was cleaning my brewing equipment and accidentally knocked over my 5,000 milliliter flask, which I use for yeast starters, and broke off the neck of the flask. And although I want to be able to use it and not have to spend another $40 or $45 on a new one, I probably will end up buying a new one just for safety reasons, and just for, I'd have to really finagle it to add an extra piece of tin foil when I make starters, and it's just really not worth the hassle. So hopefully I'll be able to get a new one before I brew again. So just word for the wise, these things are, I just knocked it over. It was on the floor. I knocked it over by accident, and it fell at just the right velocity and angle to break the neck off. So word to the wise, just be very careful with not only your carboys, but your Erlenmeyer flasks too. In terms of footage that I want to share with you, first, I finally installed the faucets this past Sunday at the end of brew day. My wife was in Jersey for the day and picked it up from my parents' house. So I was able to put in the faucets, reinstall my drip tray that I took off before staining my collar and my keezer, and pour my first glass off the keg, so I filmed that. Also, I'm going to include here some brew day footage, but again, I'm going to post the long brew day video as a separate video with all my edited footage from brew day, and mainly because I want to keep these Homebrew Wednesdays as short as possible, and also share some tips that I have learned in the interim between when I post my Homebrew Wednesdays, because as you know, I haven't been posting every week. I've been waiting until I have something to share before posting a Homebrew Wednesday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this style of Homebrew Wednesday. I hope you guys are brewing up some great beers and learning some more and more every day and every week about homebrewing. Cheers, and I'll see you in my next video. Hey Brew Tubers, happy Homebrew Wednesday. So it's finally time to pour my first glass of beer from my new Perlick taps. Let's say it's the 630 SS model, and the SS stands for stainless steel, so they're completely stainless steel all the way through. And I have my drip tray back in, so it fits nicely under the 4 taps. And what I did was, to sanitize the lines, was as you see here, it's all hooked up. But to sanitize it, what I did was I took each of my new beer lines, which I decided to go for the ones that you could actually use a wrench and tighten instead of having to use hose clamps. And I attached each one to this new Pepsi keg, just full of Star San, as you see the foam on the outside. And I put the gas from one of the kegs onto this keg and basically pushed Star San solution through the lines. And then, in order to get beer fully through the line, I took a glass and ran it a little bit into this glass to get, you know, the Star San out and the beer flowing freely into the glass. So I did that for both lines, but since I want to do it with my newest beer, I'm gonna pour myself a glass of my breakfast stout, or otherwise known as Holy Beggar's Breakfast. So you see it's on my right tap. So I'm gonna go ahead. Now I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to reset the pressures or not for my Keyser, because I'm not used to having beer on tap like this. But I'm gonna go ahead and slowly pour the beer. And you can see it's a little overcarbed. As you see, it's a little overcarbed, so I might even have to lower the pressure on that, because I thought I was pouring it at 12 psi, but it might be too much. So I'm just going to open the tap part of the way. But so I'll let this settle, and then once I finish filling the glass, I'll show you what it looks like. But it seems like I'm gonna have to lower the pressure on my stout, or learn how to control the flow on my tap, because it's pouring pretty big heads at the moment. But overall, I'm really looking forward to getting used to having beer on tap. So cheers to you guys. I know that wasn't such a dramatic, amazing looking pour, but I just wanted to show you that I now finally have my faucets on. My Keyser's complete, you know, besides for maybe 2 more taps and custom tap handles, or just cooler than the knob tap handles. But cheers and happy Homebrew Wednesday. For the original gravity post boil now, and again, instead of turning you guys around like I usually do and putting the lens into my refractometer, I decided to take a few pictures for myself of the reading as it got up to room temperature, which I recommend doing for you guys. To, you know, take your reading, you know, get settled with it, and then wait a couple minutes for it to cool, for the wort that's on here to cool down, because sometimes it will go up 2 points or so. So originally it was at 178. I was like, oh shit, I missed my numbers by 6 points. But then I waited a couple minutes, took another couple pictures, and the final picture, which I'll show you zoomed in here in the video, is at closer to 180. So even though I missed my number by 6 points, I'm not so worried, because I was kind of getting worried that it would be a 9.3% ABV double IPA on tap. Even though it'll probably be good, I wouldn't drink as much of it. So now, if it ferments down from 1080 to about 1016 or 1017, it'll be around 8.5% anyway, which is perfect for having a double IPA on tap. So I'm really looking forward to it. I did not expect this one to barf out like this, but I mean, I guess this is what happens when you have a vigorous fermentation and combined with a really full overfilled fermenter. So you have a nice hoppy smelling white foam pouring out. It's not dark this time like it was with my breakfast stout because, of course, a lighter colored beer. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then I'll show you a before and after picture after.